Yes. Chris
Chris.
Lugan.
Right.
Yes, yes.
This is John. I'm only on phone right now. I couldn't get the GoToMeeting to pull up. So.
Oh, hi, John.
Who was not going to be here this evening, Laura?
Chris?
Chris Luganbiel. She had told me after last week that she may have a chance to move some stuff around, but she was still tentative when she accepted, so may or may not.
I guess we're waiting for our attorney and Greg, right? Somebody driving?
Sounds like it.
I'm not. I'm in my office.
We'll give it another minute or two here since we get the fourth on here and we'll have a quorum. We can get going. I'm wondering where that noise is coming from.
Looks like it's coming from Paul. I don't know if there's a fan or something. Or something.
Now, now I can't hear him at all.
My office happens to be down in the basement. My wife has laundry going that happens to be a dryer, so I'm going to go put it back on mute.
That's what it is.
You didn't know this thing was so sensitive.
That's all right. I can mute anybody from my end here, so I'll do that. And if y'all need to unmute yourself to speak, we can work through that.
Sometimes you can tell people that are in their homes that are right off of a major street where there's sirens going by every, oh, they must be down the street from Station 5, right down at headquarters. Lance, how is school going?
Honestly, we're very pleased. I think things are going pretty well. I mean, knock on wood. Certainly, we've had a few little hiccups here and there, but overall, things seem to be running pretty smooth. Where I just came from a middle school football game, so I kind of pitched myself and hard to believe we're watching, younger kids participating in sports, but I think that's important, and I'm certainly glad to see that happening. And like I said, hopefully we can continue.
Good. One day at a time.
One day at a time is exactly right.
So I actually guess we do have a quorum, right? There's 4 of us. Okay. For the sake of time, considering we have to be done by 6, I will call the meeting to order at 5:04. Can I have a motion to bring the minutes up for approval, please?
I make that motion.
A second? Paul, I saw you say second. Very good. All in favor say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Nobody's down. Very good. Minutes are approved. All right. Old business. The biggest thing that I think we need to get through this evening is the discussion and approval of the guidelines. And I apologize. I didn't ask if anybody had any changes to the minutes. I hope everybody was okay with those. Yes? Okay. I see all thumbs up. Okay, very good. Sorry about that. So I had some discussions with Tom and Jordan this morning, and then I also called Pat Robinson, and I'll add her contact information to the Dropbox list. She is the person who's spent 15 years at the city working on these abatements. She's very nice, very willing to help, and very willing to present to us at another time if we decide we want to do that. And we'll discuss that under new business. But got some real clarity after I talked to the three of them about things. One of the things that was overarching is to keep in mind that the guidelines are fluid. These things are going to change as we go along. We'll find new things that we might want to insert or change. This isn't a set in stone, that type of thing. That being said, I think once we get through kind of the big piece of this, which to me is the requirements versus the have-tos and the wants, basically, that issue. Jordan and I are going to work on cleaning up the language. Hello, Karen.
Apologies.
Not a problem. We're just getting started. So we're talking about the guidelines that we're reviewing here, and that basically they're fluid. I'm not going to call for a motion for approval tonight for them, no matter where we get, because I want to take what we get from tonight. Jordan and I work on the wording, the wordsmithing, and then we'll bring them up for approval next time, because we want to get all this stuff settled before we put a yes to it. One of the things that I was not cognizant of, and if others were, I apologize. I thought we were going to get the applications for these projects at the beginning, before they got started. We actually get the application for the abatement at the end of the project, unless it is one of those projects that is the above average that's talked about. So somebody wants to put up something that's highly out of the fair market value of that normal area, whatever you want to say there, comps or whatever, then we would see it ahead of time to make sure that we're okay, that we're staying within the neighborhood, structure and all that type of thing. So I apologize if I either ever miscommunicated that or not. I did not. I understood it as we would get the application first, they would go do the work, and we would review it in the back end. But I think now I understand that a little better. And then that's when we'll collect the $25. So they will, of course, have to pay the $250 up front to the inspector directly. That will not come through the corporation, it'll go directly to the inspector. And then they won't pay the application fee of $25 to us until the end of that, unless we have to consider it ahead of time. So I guess I was a little swapped on when and how we were going to collect the fee and review it. I did clarify as well with Tom and Jordan that it will not, the inspectors will not be city employees. There's a person in the city who has done a lot of 353 inspections, but that person sounds like might be either leaving the profession or leaving the area, actually. So they're going to be working on some other inspectors who will be qualified to do this. And as they indicated, and I think it's probably really true, is that the rental ready inspectors are probably the first people they'll go to talk to do that, because they're already very up to speed on the codes and all those types of things. So that's just a little more tweak on the inspectors. Just wanted to throw that out. And then, so basically then I would just like to move to the discussion of the required items. So section 5 and 6, and this is I'm just going to refer to the residential for this discussion. So the section 5 and 6 that we talked about before. I got some clarification this morning, again, from the discussion with the three, that the items that are under section 5, which let me scan up to that. I'm sorry, I want to be on the right page when I'm talking here. So starts on page number 4. So the required improvements. The question that I had this morning that we walked through was, you got 5, your categories: structural repair, blight, and then a list of those things, smoke and CO detectors, architectural review, and electrical service. So we talked about, if I come up with a plan that gets me over in tier 1, let's talk about tier 1, gets me over 10%, have an $80,000 house, I'm the 10% threshold's $8,000. And let's say I need my electrical service, I need blight for my driveway, blight for my sidewalk, and structural repair. Do we homeowners have to do everything under the requirements to get an abatement? Or as long as what we do comes up to the 10%, be that only say 2 of the 4 requirements that we have, would we still consider that for an abatement? And I believe, I feel based on my discussions, and I think what kind of, and of course, Tom and Jordan can jump in here, is that yes, we want people, they have to get up over 10%, but we want people to do what they can. So if they can only do a part of those, that's fine. They have to understand though that we're not going to count adding on a bedroom, the section 6 items. We won't consider that in the 10%, but as long as you get to 10% in these required items, that's what's required. That's what we would then consider for an abatement. Jordan, can you confirm that's kind of how we discussed that this morning?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what we discussed this morning, that those required things, if any number of those projects gets you to that 10%, that should be allowable. As you said, we just wouldn't go on to those additional things like new, remodeled living room, kitchen, whatever.
Okay. Is any other discussion from the group? Is anyone in disagreement with that or have a thought on just that piece of it?
I'm sorry, I'm late. Is there a quick 2-minute recap, 1-minute recap you can give on that clarification for me?
Absolutely, Greg. So basically we're looking at section 5 and 6 of the guidelines, 5 being the required. So we're just talking about residential right now. Commercial is about the same, but I'm sticking to kind of residential. Your 5 requirements, your structural repair, blight, smoke detectors, architectural review, and electrical service. So inspector comes out and says, you have 4 of these things that are required for you to do. But you only have a certain, pot of money, of course, to fund what you need to do. And you can get up over 10% in the tier 1 category by doing 2 of those 4 things that need to be done. So as long as you get over 10% in the requirement categories in section 5, we would consider that for abatement. You don't have to be able to afford and do all of them, but in that 10% calculation, we're not going to include that you put on a deck and, redid the living room and, remodeled and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, that was my understanding of how it would work, that the only way that those other things can get put in there is if you did every single one of the stage 1, if you will, and I don't have the document in front of me for the terminology, but in those required areas before you got into, room layout changes and that kind of thing. So, okay.
So does everybody else, I'm sorry, go ahead, Karen.
That being the case, you know the paragraph right before A on page 4, the structural repair?
Uh-huh.
Then maybe we might want that to read the project for all residential rehabilitation, reconstruction, and/or new construction receiving parcel-specific tax abatement must comply with 1 or more of the following.
Okay. I'm going to make a note of that suggestion so that Jordan and I can work on the wordsmithing on that to make that more clear. Is that fine with everyone? Yep. Okay. Let me add a quick highlight comment to that so I don't forget. And I'm all for, and as I was for Greg and Karen, who came in a little later, I talked to Pat Robinson, who is the lady who's been doing all this 353 work for the city for the last 15 years. And one of the things she agreed on, she said, is to be very specific as best you can in these guidelines. And so then you will know them, once we're done, know them by heart, basically, or, dig into them very thoroughly so that we don't give conflicting advice to two different homeowners that then comes back with precedent to bite us in the, bite us in the behind when we give two people different answers. So I would agree with you with that we should add that language to be more clear for that. That's kind of the biggest piece of the guidelines that I wanted to talk about. Is there, I was trying to see if there's anything that we talked about ahead of time before Karen and Greg were on. Just basically the guidelines are fluid. So once we approve these, and I'm going to make a motion actually to table this discussion for us to get the language cleaned up and back out to you for review before we would then go ahead and vote on it, because there are several wording changes and some things we're fixing, but that it doesn't have to be set in stone. We vote on this in a week or so or whatever, but we find out later we're not specific enough or we need to add something, we can do that. That is, bring it up in front of the board, and that would be at our discretion. So any other areas that that anybody thinks we really need to have a real close talk about, that you had concerns on?
This is a silly question, but looking at the guidelines in the introduction, paragraph 1.
Crystal?
Introduction, paragraph 1, page
Right.
1. Go ahead.
This plan reads that it was approved on December 30th, 2019. Correct?
It does read that.
That's when City Council.
I believe that is
Right?
correct. On or
Okay.
about that, yeah.
Okay. That being the case, didn't we agree that we would accept applications for projects? I thought we said January 1st of 2019.
We did, yes. And I understand where your question is that would, from the reading of the first paragraph, that would lead people to believe that it would be after December 31st that we're talking about. So let's.
I get confused with that. We're
Hey, Laura.
accepting applications before this plan was even approved by City Council.
Right. So what we just, and I understand where the question is. As we had kind of talked about, and I talked to Tom and Jordan about this too, is typically 353s when they're formed have allowed for a year back, basically. And especially now that this was approved December 30th and we're now basically, mid-September, not only will we go back to the beginning of the year, but we're saying we would go back another full year. Which normally to me, I would agree as you're an attorney and as I'm I like the boxes to fit in the boxes and the circles to fit in the circles, that we had informed this group on January 3rd of 2019, but that we can agree, and I've read some of the other documents, we can do this. It is at our discretion to allow that. So we're not doing something on the fringe. This has been done on the other plans and is allowable. Now, I do where your point being, I don't remember in the guidelines here, I've read so much. I know it's covered in the plan that states January 1 of 2019, but I will make a note that we probably need to, under the section that talks about eligible property, basically that we need to add in there in the guidelines somewhere about the January 1st, 2019. Would that sound good to people?
Okay.
Hey, Laura,
Yes.
that is covered on the top of page 5. There is a sentence that states that going back, residential projects completed after January 1, 2019.
Yeah, it sure does. You're right. And it was 18 and I crossed it out for 19 to have Jordan change that. So, okay, good. So we do cover that. So Karen, I think we're we're square on the legal side, and as long as we all agree with that, and then we have it in the documentation, I think we're good on that issue.
Right, now I was just wondering, just in case I was queried on it, you
Sure.
know, what would I say? That we had authorization to make that as the commencement of application.
Right. And we talked about that too. So say someone finished their driveway and that came up over 10% or whatever they fixed, came up over the 10% in the section 5, required items back in 2019. They are still going to have an inspection, and they're going to have to pay $250 for that. And they're going to have to pay the $25 application fee. We will make them go through all the same things that someone starting tomorrow would do, per se. Now, of course, they're potentially not going to have before and after pictures, but as we talked this morning, they'll have receipts, that ABC Asphalt Company put that down in whatever and how much it costs and that type of thing.
Okay.
So that being the only difference there is there might not be photos, but they still have to go through the process as the rest of those of us new to it, per se, would. Anything else on that issue of the January 119? Okay. Anything else that you want to have a deeper discussion on? I know I have a lot of little questions out to Jordan that I have made notes of. Some places where there's a should it be should or should it be must? But I think those things are easily decided by us. We don't need to sit and talk about every little one of those, but I want to make sure. Oh, I know another one I want to address, and that's because I scrolled down to section 6. The first paragraph, the first sentence there refers to the base project. And I want to have a definition section at the top of the guidelines. The definitions refer back to the plan, but they don't even do that until the last paragraph of the whole thing. I like to have the definitions up front, so when I see the capitalized words, I know what's defined. So we'll do that. We'll get that kind of moved around. Jordan and I will work on that. But this phrase base project brought to mind the question that I had asked Pat, Tom, and Jordan about was, say, they come out and they do my inspection and they say, I have 4 things that are an issue, and I can get up to the 10% threshold by doing 2 of them. So now I'm like, oh, wait, I think I can get enough investment. I have enough money, cash flow to be able to now get up over the 25%. Would we say, oh, okay, well, once you meet the 25%, we'll bump you to the 25% tier, excuse me, I should say tier. And she said, yeah, she said, I think that's what you're trying to encourage. You would like to see people spend even more money, to get more improvements done. And again, where I was on the understanding that we were reviewing the plan at the beginning, they did the work, and then we agreed, yep, you've crossed all your T's and I's and everything at the end, is not the way it is. You get your inspection, you decide what you want to do, you work with Pat at the city, you work with your contractors, you work with codes to get all your permits and everything, you get the work done, then at the end, you come back to the board, and that's when you apply for the abatement. I always thought it was flipped, I guess, that we were approving the project and then approving the abatement. It's just we're going to approve the abatement at the end once the city has said, yes, everything's kosher on codes and all those things. So if they started it with a 10% base project, but it ended up being a 25% because they could afford it, that yes, we would say, yeah, you've met 25%. And of course, again, that you would not add to that 25% outside of the section 5 items until you've met all of section 5 items. So you can't have a brand new bathroom before you fix your foundation or something like that. Would you agree with that? Anybody have thoughts that would be otherwise?
Which section did you said section,
Section 5 is where the requirements for residential start, and that's on page 4, Karen.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's what you were referring to. I'm asking, that's what you were referring to?
Yes. Section 5 is what I'm calling required residential. So you can't pick anything out of section 6 to add to your 25 until you get all of that done in section 5. So section 5 comes up to 15%. You get it all done. You're like, oh, well, hey, I got some extra money. I want to redo the bathroom, whatever would be another, 10% to get you to 25%. Then when we evaluate you for your abatement, we would evaluate you at the 25%. And you have to have done everything, all of section 5, plus whatever else it took you to get to 25%, if that included bumping into section 6 wanted items versus necessary or versus required.
I kind of wanted to shed a little light on our conversation before, maybe to help clarify this. So when someone is interested in participating in our other tax abatement programs, it's not just hey, they turn in a paper and here you go, here's the work I've done, I'm applying for tax abatement. It's a very long hand-holding process with Pat. So you'll come to the city and say, here's my house, these are some of the projects I want to do. Okay, great, let's stop there. Let's get this independent inspection completed to see what deficiencies your home might have. And then to Laura's point, if you have, say you have 2 deficiencies, you have a structural issue and a roof that need to be replaced, and you go in thinking these are the things I want to complete, great. And that maybe that's only, it's less than the 25%, but it would meet your 25%. That's great. Then after, because construction timelines are long and this could take, 6 to 8 months, you decide later that, oh, actually, now that I've completed everything in the required, check boxes, now I do want to remodel the kitchen or whatever. Now I'm still working with Pat. I haven't made application to the board yet. So I have every right to add more to my project in that those additional things. And, oh, this project will get me up over 25%. And because you as the board haven't seen that yet, and the project isn't complete, basically they're still working toward that 25% value. So then once all of that work is concluded, they would turn in their receipts, their, bank drafts to show that they've paid all these projects, their before and after pictures to show, hey, look at all this work that we've done on this project. And now they would have a total package to submit to you all to review that would meet that 25% threshold.
That made a lot more sense when Jordan and Tom explained that this morning. Because like you said, we're not going to see it unless they're going to do something really extravagant. We won't see this until we're ready to sign off on the abatement, which we won't know whether or when they got to 10% or 25%. It's just whatever that number is at the end that we're concerned about, that percent that we're concerned about. Everybody clear on that piece? If so, anything else that was that we wanted to talk about a little deeper? I will tell you, I don't know as much about commercial things, but it seems, and Jordan and I talked about, I want to make sure that as much of the language that can be the same in between residential and commercial is the same. Now, some things aren't, obviously, but trying to use the same type of wording and that just for consistency purposes. Anything else? Okay. I would then make a motion that we table the approval of the guidelines. I'm sorry. Motion, and Paul's got a second up already. Very good. All right, all in favor? Thumbs up? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Any nays? Nope. Motion passes. That was very smooth sailing. We're going to have plenty of time to get through this and get going. I'm glad. So under new business, as I indicated, I talked to Pat Robertson about an hour or two ago. She again, she just said she's very willing to work with us. She is very willing to work with the residents who will come to her for the help and the guidance. She says she has about 6 inches worth of paper already on this, so she's made herself very familiar with it. And so I asked her if she would be willing, if we are interested in having her come to a meeting.
Froze up, Laura.
Not this, and maybe depending on timing, maybe it's not this next meeting that she would come and basically tell them to do, go do this, talk to this person, get your inspection. Here's your list. Here's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Let's help guide you a little bit. Oh, sorry, did I catch an echo there? You know, so that we will understand, like if I go to her, what's going to happen. And then I just told her if we could maybe have some questions, even if we had them beforehand, that we could ask her, present to her beforehand, or she said she's willing to, you know, talk off the top of her head about it too, because she's been doing it for so long, about what if we run into a situation where somebody wants to do this? How do you handle that? How do you maneuver? You know, and she can give us some of the things that she has seen as things that have become tricky before, you know, that had to be decided on. Would you guys agree you would like to hear from her in that capacity?
I agree, sure.
Okay. I don't think it can hurt. I think the more information we have about what's been done will help us going forward. So, and the reason I was at the next board meeting, just kind of looking forward, hopefully Jordan and I will have had time to work through all of the wording, the wordsmithing, get it out to you guys. So if there's any other questions or, you know, things that we need to do, because at the next meeting, I would like us to finalize this and, you know, approve it so we can move forward with the guidelines. I'm not sure if, depending on how that goes, if that will allow us enough time to have Pat present. Or do we need to wait for Pat to present till the next time so we can talk a little bit more about marketing, which I think is the part we're going to run out of time to get a lot of discussion on. Double-edged sword, because I kind of like to hear from Pat about what she thinks about marketing and what she thinks the questions that could be answered in some of our marketing material per se before we design that. So maybe we should hear from her at the next meeting. Thoughts on that?
I agree, I think that's good.
Next meeting?
I think I would like to hear from her.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I will work with her then, whatever meeting date we decide. Well, hopefully she will be available. We'll talk about next meeting date here in a second. Next item, discussion of incorporation requirements. I'm going to take care of this. I need to get us incorporated with the Secretary of State, get us a tax identification number through the IRS, get us a bank account opened, and that type of thing. So I'm going to do all those items. I've looked through the bylaws from the other corporations, the other 353s. They're all consistent. So if you're all okay with me doing that, I will take care of that process. Shouldn't take too long. Missouri Secretary of State's website has been changed up in the last couple of months, so it takes longer to get into their website and figure out where they've moved everything than it does to actually incorporate a business. And what we'll do in the incorporation, it asks for board members, so we'll list those. But I presume, and Tom or Jordan, tell me if you think differently. One of them that I looked at, they were all under 111 West Maple or whatever, that basically using City Hall's address. So our individual addresses aren't on those incorporation documents. Does that sound good, Tom, Jordan?
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's how the other ones are, that should be
Yeah. It's just so they can find us, and I know that you know where we live, so you can find us from there. So, okay, I will take care of those items and have those done before our next meeting. Let's go ahead and talk about next meeting date and then go to a marketing plan, because that's where we'll then go until we run out of time, basically, or if we finish early, fine. So can we look at our calendars real quick? Jordan, you and I are going to have some work to do on the wordsmithing, and then getting it out to everybody for review. So I'm thinking about September 29th. So that gives Jordan and I basically a week to finalize all the back and forth wordsmithing, get it out to you. You have a few days to review it. Obviously, we can't have a meeting Monday night because of council. And then meeting on the 29th. Let's just go around. Jordan, is that okay for you?
Yeah, I guess technically we don't have a planning commission meeting that night, so yeah, we should be fine.
Okay, you sure? You're sure? Okay. I don't want to force you into any of these things. Tom, if Jordan's good, are you? He's here to
Yes.
cover, so okay. Paul's thumbs up. Greg,
Yep, good.
Chris, John, thumbs up.
Sorry, I can only call one person at a time.
So Siri thinks I'm talking to her. She can only call one person at a time, she said. I said, okay, fine. Okay, I got through John, Paul, Jordan, Chris, Karen, Lance, Greg. Are you good for the 29th? At 5. Thumbs up. All right. Let's put that on the calendar. So now let's talk about marketing and how we want to get this out. And I've done basically 90% of the talking. So does anybody else want to jump in with their thoughts on this?
I did have a couple of thoughts, but let me ask it rather than reinvent the wheel. What has worked with the other 353 plans? What has been successful in getting people to submit proposals or applications? That'd be my suggestion.
And my thought is going to be, but of course, Jordan and Tom were there or know of these things, but I think we're in a completely different era now. I don't think there was social media when the others were. So I think we may have options now that they didn't have then, because I think you guys talked about like literally putting out signs that says you could get an abatement on this property.
Yeah, that's correct. So the outreach back when these first tax abatements were talked about, there was no social media. So it was placing signs out, what Pat would call the sign blitzes. So they place signs out in the tax abatement areas trying to get people to participate within the program, but maybe there's a way through social media. The city has Nextdoor app that we can use to get information out about this. So we could probably use our PIO to try to get some information out.
Yeah, and I know Meg would have a lot of platforms to get that out with Twitter and the web, you know, the whole, she knows all that if we gave her that information. And then we could, you know, I think we would maybe have a kind of a timetable where we put it out and then in a month we hit it again, you know, so that it's a reminder to people. So definitely the city's social platforms, Facebook page and all those types of things. A thought came to mind too, if we could, I presume, maybe I'm presuming wrong, that there's a list of, so for people who own properties that rent them out, that this might be something that will work for them. Again, you know, we're trying to get them to convert. We're not going to give you, you know, we're not going to have one rental that's going to turn into 2. You can turn 2 to 1, but, or, you know, owner occupied, moving to that. Can we get the word out through, is there some type of list of the people like through Rental Ready that we could email those people?
So we would have a list, and maybe what we do is when we have those rental properties renew, maybe we have a marketing form included in there. We would just have to figure out because we do those on a monthly basis and that's citywide, we would just have to figure out how to focus only in this area so as not to confuse those landlords in other parts of town where there is no tax abatement.
Yeah, that's the last thing we need is people to get excited about something that doesn't apply to them and they're like, oh, nope, sorry. That will put us in a bad light.
Is it possible to send out flyers to the people in the plan area, or an ad or a page or something in the Examiner that goes out to people?
I would presume so. I guess the question would be the money to spend to do that. Because we're really starting with this much. And if we're not going to have any people paying this application fee until, months from now when the work gets done, but I don't know how they paid for signs before. Do you know, Tom or Jordan?
I think what they did when they expanded the first 353, they already had some money, and so they spent some of that on the marketing, the signs, the mailers, stuff like that. So maybe our initial push is through the low cost social media.
And we could definitely go ahead and draft up, a brochure or a one-page flyer. We can at least draft all that up, so that we'll have it, and even because I suppose even maybe it could be attached to the. Well, we could get it out in City Scene too, probably, I would think. We could push through there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. That we could have a link to a brochure on the website. When you look up 353 and ours comes up, could have a link to this little brochure or put the brochure there.
Yeah, we could create a website and have that located on the city's website, because we do that now with our current 353s, and we could have information, maps, brochure explaining the program, all there, and take advantage of that. And then once there's some funds, then start thinking about how to market this more broadly.
Yeah, I think we potentially want to have this even done before some of that, next door or City Scene stuff. So there's a link to send them to.
Yeah. Right. And I think that at least I've found, and I kind of put together a quick spreadsheet this morning that I sent to Tom and Jordan about how I understood what would happen in tier 1, 2, and 3 with some numbers kind of. And I learned a lot about where I was, a couple of items that I had twisted around. So I think that I'll finish that up and I can put that out. I can just email it to you and then put it in Dropbox as well. Because I think that when you spend the time to design something like that, a one page or whatever, you really understand it because you write it down and everybody looks at it and you're like, we got to really understand that. I think that helps for our being thorough when we're putting together something like that. So I think it's a good learning tool as well as while you're developing a marketing tool. So that's the least thing I can do is graphics and all that stuff. I don't speak that language at all. I don't know if anybody would be interested in picking that up as a project. I mean, I can try. I'm pretty bullet point oriented and it gets really boring. Anybody?
I can try and pick up on it.
Okay.
I can pick up on it.
Okay. Just, I kind of like those, I don't know about you, but I like that new marketing kind of style where those, what do you call it, graphics or whatever, you know, where there's a picture of a house and a dollar sign and a picture of this, and you know, I kind of like that style a little bit. And I think maybe even in Word or Publisher, I think that there are templates for that kind of thing maybe out there. But if you can take a shot at it, Crystal, I'd be willing to work with you on it. We can get that kind of going. I agree. And I don't mind. I mean, I'm willing to, you know, kick in $20 or whatever of my own funds to for us to purchase a website. I mean, domain names. I sincerely doubt there's a Southwest Independence Redevelopment Corp.com or something shorter than that out there. I'm sure I can get that for $1.99 a month for a year.
I'm not even sure. That may not even be necessary. It could just be hosted on the city's website as a page there. So I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
We may be limited in the look and feel, but we can, you know, put maps and links to documents and all that kind of stuff. So that'll save us money and at least the starting place. And if we decide once we have some funds, if we want to do something else, that's always an option.
Okay. Yeah, if we can do that, then yeah, I'm all about keeping it concise, and I like being able. It also helps people, drives people to the city website, which is times I wish people would go to the city website to get answers for questions before they where they pop them out on community awareness and ask everybody about what are the requirements to have a pool fence. Search pools on the website, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't mind driving it right to the city website and using that information there.
Crystal, I'm not savvy in that, but if you need a second eye for an opinion about something you come up with, you know, please let me know.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, I do this at my job all the time. So the more eyes on it, the better.
Yes, and I agree with that. And it will be something then that we'll all take a look at and approve to make sure we don't trip up on a fact or a number or something. Absolutely. Can I ask, did everybody, Paul, I know you were able to, because I did see you added you made a change on one of the spreadsheets there, inside Dropbox. Does everybody had a chance to see, or you can get access to your Dropbox that I sent you? Karen? Lance is up, Paul's up. It was an email to a link to a Dropbox invitation. And Karen, no, that's not right. And I can resend it to you, Karen, if you don't remember seeing it.
You sent me an email reminding me about my phone number.
Yes. And did everybody respond on that?
I'll check.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my mouth to come up. I was trying to see, did everyone, I think I'm missing one person on whether you're okay with a phone number on there. I think it was John. John, did you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
You were good with doing that. Okay. And I'm not looking at the Dropbox. I'm looking at this, but Crystal, I got yours. Paul took care of his. Okay. And Karen, you did. You responded to me. Yes, that's right. So did you get the link for Dropbox, or would you like me to resend that?
If you could, I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
No problem. I've got subfolders in there with minutes, agenda, miscellaneous items, list of board members, again, confidential for us, staff, some other miscellaneous documents that I've pulled off of Missouri Gov websites, that type of thing. Okay. Is there anything else for new business? I'm seeing none. I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Crystal's got the second. I love it. We got the 1, 2. It was good seeing you all. We'll see you on the 29th at 5 o'clock. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.